Hello, I'm Ed. Today we're going to unpack and assemble a 23275 earthquake edger. Start by opening the box. It's easiest if you slice around the edges. And then we're going to line up the parts and make sure we have everything we need. The manual. And on here you'll see that's where the serial number is for the unit. You'll need that for warranty. We have our cup holder with the spark plug wrench. Have the hardware bag. We have 10W30 oil. And we have 3 separate axle rods, 3 separate sizes. They're all neatly packed in this foam. Dash panel has all the caution warning labels, and the serial number is on there as well. Set that down there. Let's see what else we have. We have 2 different size wheels, front and back. The cutter head. This also has hardware with it. Has the belt, the guard, the safety chains, we have another control rod here. And then to lift out the engine, and chassis, it's tucked in the foam nice. The handlebars are connected because the throttle cable is pre-assembled. Alright, now the throttle cable is tied shut with a tie wrap. You're going to need to remove that before we start it, of course. But for the moment, we'll set that there. Okay, step 1, we're going to assemble the handlebars. Notice the cable should go on the outside, the bars should go on the outside, and then the dash panel will fit inside here like this. So to do that, we'll grab our 6 screws right here. We have 3 bolts, 3 nuts, 3 bolts, 3 nuts. And you can follow the instructions. Step 1 says position the panel between. So we kind of hold that in there, and we're going to need about 3 hands to do this. So if you have a helper, that always works. We'll hold that in there. Try and line up the screw holes. And I like to put the bolt through with the nut on the inside. It looks a lot neater. It's a little hard to see here out of view. So, and if you are a taller person, the 3 holes will allow you to adjust the handlebar height. There, we got the first one in. That always makes it a little easier. Once you got one in, it goes a little bit quicker. Just poke the bolts through the holes, and then you start spinning the nuts on. Now these are 10 millimeters, so you're gonna need your 10 millimeter wrench and socket. So there they're all fastened in. And you can kind of adjust this. There's a little bit of play there, so you can align it up however nice you want it. Make that look nicer. And then we'll snug it up. And there, that's how you do step one. So, following the steps, we're going to need the mounting plate, which holds the cup holder in, so that goes in like that. And we're going to need these bolts. There's a long one, that one's 30 millimeters long, and that goes in the lower corner here with the support. So the support will go on the back side like that, and the long bolt goes in the lower corner here. So we'll start that. Take this. Kind of helps if you poke the bolts through the holes first. Kind of hold stuff in place. And you need 3 hands to do that. There's the first one. Well, I'm going to spin that nut on there, keep it from falling. The bolts are a little bit long, and that's because if you have the curb wheel attachment, that goes on the opposite side with a similar type control, and that would gets mounted the same way from the back side. So let's put another bolt here. You can put the nut on the inside too if that's what you like, but I'm going to do it this way. Longer bolt, again, I said goes in the bottom. And then we can go ahead and tighten them up. There we are, all snugged up. Our control works. And we are ready for step 3. Okay, so step 3, we're going to assemble the edger head to the unit and attach the belt while we do that. When you take it out of the box, there's a couple things. The shroud for the clutch comes on the unit, so you have to take that off. And then also, this is packaged in this position. So to assemble it, you're going to have to rotate this up to one of the upper positions. That will make assembly a little bit easier. So also for this, to remove the shroud, you're going to need a 10 millimeter deep socket works good, or a little extension will help. And you just take these, there's a couple screws here, you just take these out. Alright, set that aside. It only goes on one way, so you can't get that mixed up. I like to keep the screws with it. Also you'll need the pivot rod, 2 washers and 2 cotter pins, and also the other bolt and nut to hold on the pivot support. The pivot rod goes through here, like this. Okay, sometimes the pivot rod is a little firm going in and out, so you can tap on the end gently to get it through all the way. And I like to, if you push it through far enough, so you leave room for a washer and a cotter pin, because they'll go on the end of that rod, and we'll show you that in a minute. So, and then the pivot support will get bolted in here, and it fits over the end like that, with enough space again for the other cotter pin and washer. So the head, you're going to need to, it works best if you loop the belt on first and then tip it a little bit and slide it over. And then you can see you have your room for your pivot rod, and then you can put your washer and a cotter pin. What I like to do a little bit with cotter pins is just give them a little slight bend on the tip. Sometimes it helps with alignment. And it goes through the hole much easier. You can give it a little tap there. And cotter pins, if you put a little curl on them, you loop them around so that if you curl the end around so that it's not hanging out, then you won't be snagging it on clothing, or it won't be catching dirt and stuff. So it works good to give it a nice little curl. There, pretty much like that. So when you see our pivot head flexes, turns, that all works nice. We'll put the cotter pin in the washer on the other side. Loop it around, loop it around. Like that. And then all we have left to do is put the bolt through the pivot support. And I like to put it from the top down. And you'll notice there's a notch out on the pivot support that goes up. It allows the head to float like it's supposed to. So we'll assemble that. Put the nut on there. Yep. Now the engines are shipped without oil in them. Sometimes there's a little bit of test oil left in them, so make sure you add oil before you start the engine. It's okay to tip it upside down without the oil in it when you're assembling. So don't be afraid to do that. Makes the job a little easier. Let's see, what do we need? 13, probably, and 12. Let's see, yeah. Oop. Get our wrenches right. Snug that up tight. Set it back up, and we will move this back slightly and put our shroud back on. So yeah, kind of sneak it in there and put our little screws back in the holes. Get that started a little bit. Put our other screw in. Snug it up. And that's that. Then next we're going to need to connect our control rod. And if you notice in the diagram, the control rod should be poked through the handle in this fashion. Up there. And tip our unit up slightly. Slide it into place. And then that gets the washer on each end. Like so. Cotter pins will go in the holes like that. And the curb assembly, curb attachment goes on the opposite side. The rod is a little bit longer length, but it's very similar. And we'll put a little curl on those cotter pins. Just like so. And again, I like to curl them around so that the tip of the cotter pin is within the washer. That way it won't be scratching on the paint and you won't be snagging your clothes on it. So, and this one is a little bit trickier because you're inside. So maybe we can move it to a better position. Curl it around. Like so. And there you have it. All right, now we're going to move on to step 6. We're going to put the wheels on. Front wheels are a little bit smaller than the rear wheels. And to do that, we need spacers, and this cute little device is for adjusting the wheels for when you rotate the head. So that goes on last. Front axle has washers and cotter pins. And I'm going to rotate this a little bit so you can see it a little better. So, assembly goes pretty similar like that. With cotter pin and a washer on both sides. Got all the hardware lined up. And we'll be ready to go. Let's just check here quick. All right. I'm going to rotate this just a little bit more to help out. So this kind of works. The axle goes through the holes, of course, and then you have, in this case, the wheels are on the inside. So, and the wheels slide back and forth for adjustment so you can rotate the head. So what we'll do, we'll line them up like so. We can start by sticking an axle in there, put a spacer in there, slide the wheel on, continue on through, slide the other wheel on, spacer, we'll poke it through the hole like so. And it's easiest if you put the washer in between the head on first. And of course I got the wrong washers. Let me grab the other ones quick. This takes the larger size washer. Slides on, cotter pin goes in the hole, and we will use our needle nose pliers again and straighten that or bend that cotter pin correctly. We'll just give it a little curl to begin with. So we get this on. Sometimes you'll have to sometimes squeeze this a little bit to get the other cotter pin in. But like so. And then the spacer will go between the wheels like so. And of course we got to bend the cotter pins around like before. Sometimes you have to hold the axle, keep it from spinning when you're doing that. So and there you have the front wheels. The rear wheels go on very similar. Tip it to the back. So for step 8, the rear axle assembly, it works good if you assemble one wheel first, and you'll get the spacer goes on the inside of the wheel, like so, and then you get a washer, and we can spin a nut on. That'll kind of hold it together. We don't necessarily have to tighten it right away, but that'll give us some room to slide it through the hole and support the whole device. Like so. Slide the spacer on. Slide the wheel on. Like that. And then we're ready for the washer and the nut. So, and then just tighten up the nuts and there you have it. So this completes our assembly of the earthquake edger. Some things to note quick, the belt is automatically tensioned by the spring on the cutter head. So no adjustment is needed there. Remember to remove the twist zip tie there at the top so the throttle works freely. Something to check quick, make sure the governor is free and the choke operates correctly. And do not forget to add oil. Remember, the unit's shipped without oil, so 10W30 is recommended. And then the fuel you use, it's best if you use non-ethanol fuel, but if you use ethanol, regular is fine, as long as you use a fuel stabilizer. I'd highly recommend using fuel stabilizer with all the gas you put through here.